They say life doesn't fall apart in a single moment, that it crumbles little by little, the cracks forming long before you even notice. But I swear my entire world shattered in just one sentence. Lena stood by the door, adjusting the sleeve of her dress, a light smile on her lips. She looked stunning, like she always did when we used to go out together. Except this time, I wasn't the one waiting for her at the dinner table. "I'm going on a date now," she said, so casually, as if she were mentioning a grocery run. "Hope you won't be too jealous." I didn't understand at first. My brain refused to process it. I stared at her, searching her face for any sign that this was some kind of twisted joke. But she just grabbed her purse and checked her reflection in the mirror, completely unfazed, completely normal, as if she hadn't just ripped the foundation of our marriage apart with those few words. A part of me wanted to laugh, to ask, a date with who? Because in what world does a wife say something like that to her husband? But my voice stayed stuck in my throat. My hands, resting on the countertop, suddenly felt numb. "What?" I finally managed, my voice barely more than a whisper. She turned to me, sighing, like I was the one being difficult. "I met someone, okay? I've been seeing him for a while, and I don't want to lie to you. I figured honesty was best. You always said you respected honesty, right?" She had the audacity to look at me like she expected me to thank her, like she was doing me some kind of favor by ripping my heart out with the most nonchalant tone imaginable. I felt my stomach twist into knots, my fingers clenched into fists against the cold granite of the counter. She's joking. She has to be joking. But she wasn't. She was already slipping on her heels, humming softly, like this was just another Saturday night, like she hadn't just admitted to months of lies and betrayal. Something in me snapped. "You expect me to just sit here while you go out and—" My voice shook with disbelief. She shrugged. "I don't see why you'd be upset. It's not like I don't love you. I do. I want something new for a change." She tilted her head. "I'm sure you understand." Understand? I thought back to the nights I had stayed up late finishing projects at work so we could afford the vacation she wanted. The birthdays I spent planning surprises just to see her smile. The times I held her when she cried over things that barely made sense to me, but I never questioned it. I was just there for her, always. And now, she wanted something new. I couldn't breathe. The room felt too small, the air thick with something suffocating. I wanted to yell, to throw something, to shake her and demand an explanation. But all I did was stand there, my pulse thundering in my ears, watching the woman I had given everything to adjust her makeup in the mirror before heading out to meet another man. I didn't even know who I was looking at anymore. And that's when I knew. I couldn't let this slide. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. But I wasn't going to let her walk out that door thinking she could shatter me without consequence. She wanted a new experience. She was about to get one. Because if she thought I was just going to sit there like a fool and wait for her to come back, she was dead wrong. I watched her walk out the door like she was heading to a casual dinner with friends, not betraying the man who had given her everything. The sound of her heels against the floor was like nails scraping against my skull. I expected her to hesitate, to at least flinch as she left me standing there. But she didn't. She never even looked back. The door clicked shut. Silence. I stood there, gripping the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. My stomach twisted into a knot so tight I thought I might be sick. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to chase after her, to demand she explain herself, to yell, to beg, to do something. But I didn't. I stayed exactly where I was, frozen in place, drowning in a storm of emotions I couldn't even begin to name. Anger, definitely. Betrayal, absolutely. Humiliation, that one stung the most. She had stood there, in our home, and told me she was leaving to be with another man as if it was the most normal thing in the world, as if I was supposed to just sit there and accept it. I turned away from the door, my mind racing. She thinks she can just walk away like that. It wasn't even just the cheating, it was the complete lack of remorse. The way she had said it, with that little smile, like she was amused by the situation, like I was just supposed to understand. I let out a bitter laugh. Oh, I understood. I understood that I had spent the last 9 years married to a woman who never really valued me. A woman who saw me as a safety net, a backup plan, someone who would always be there no matter what she did. She thought I would wait. She thought she could go out, have her fun, and then come back to me whenever she was done. Wrong. I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking as I scrolled through my contacts. There was one person I needed to talk to. "Hey, man," a familiar voice answered after 2 rings. It was my best friend, Mark. "She left," I said, my voice hoarse. There was a pause. "What do you mean she left?" "She told me," I swallowed hard, barely believing the words even as I said them. "She told me she was going on a date, looked me in the eye and said it like it was nothing." I heard him exhale sharply. No way! She actually said that? I let out a bitter chuckle, like she was telling me what she had for lunch. A long silence. Then, "So, what now?" That was the real question, wasn't it? What now? I had options. I could call her, scream at her, demand an explanation. I could beg her to stay, try to fight for the marriage like some pathetic fool who didn't know he'd already lost. Or I could make sure that when she walked back through that door, expecting me to be right where she left me, her entire world would be flipped upside down. I took a deep breath, my hand steadying. "I need your help," I said. Mark didn't even hesitate. "Name it." I looked around the house she thought she could treat like a waiting room while she ran off to entertain another man. This place wasn't going to be her safe haven anymore. "Meet me at my place in 30 minutes, I said. Then I hung up and got to work. The first thing I did was grab a suitcase. I wasn't the one leaving, no, that was her job. But I was going to make sure that when she came back, her bags would already be packed for her. I started with her closet. Dress after dress, pair after pair of shoes, all the things she had bought using our money stuffed into the suitcase like they meant nothing. Because now, they didn't. I was halfway through when Mark arrived. "Holy," he muttered, stepping inside and taking in the mess. "You're really doing this." I zipped the suitcase shut with more force than necessary. She doesn't get to treat me like this and come back expecting nothing to change. Mark ran a hand through his hair, clearly trying to process what was happening. Man, I knew she was selfish, but this is another level. I clenched my jaw. I'm done being her backup plan. He nodded slowly, then glanced toward the living room. "So, what's next?" I already knew. "Help me change the locks." Mark let out a low whistle. Damn. I met his gaze, my expression firm. She walked out like I was just supposed to wait, like she could come back whenever she felt like it. I crossed my arms. I want her to come home and realize she made the biggest mistake of her life. Mark gave a slow nod. "All right, man, let's do it." 2 hours later, the locks were changed, her things were packed, and I was sitting on the couch, drinking a beer, waiting. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I wanted her to think everything was normal, that she could just waltz back in and resume life like nothing had happened. She had no idea what was waiting for her, and when she finally walked back through that door, she was in for the shock of her life. I sat there waiting. The house felt different now, emptier, but in a good way. It wasn't just a place where I lived anymore. It was a place where I had drawn a line. No more being taken for granted. No more playing the fool while my wife paraded around with another man, assuming I'd be here waiting with open arms. The clock on the wall ticked away the minutes. 10:45 p.m., then 11:15, then 11:30. She was late. I wondered if she even cared enough to check the time, or if she was too busy in his car, or at some fancy restaurant, or wherever she thought she could have her little new experience without consequences. I felt a strange calm settle over me. I had spent hours raging, feeling like my life was imploding. But now I felt nothing but clarity. She was about to get the wake-up call she never saw coming. I heard the sound of a car door slamming shut outside, then heels clicking against the pavement. I didn't move from the couch. The doorknob rattled. Then it rattled again, more aggressively this time. There was a pause, and then bang, bang, bang. What the hell? Lena's voice cut through the night. I let the moment stretch, savoring it. Then, finally, I got up, walked to the door, and unlocked it. Not to let her in, but just enough to stand in the frame, blocking the entrance. She looked up at me, frustration clear on her face. Her makeup was still flawless, but I could see the slight smudge of lipstick at the corner of her mouth. Lipstick that wasn't meant for me. She looked past me, her brow furrowing. "Why is my key not working?" I crossed my arms. "Because the locks have been changed." Her mouth fell open slightly, her eyes scanning my face like she was trying to figure out if I was joking. You changed the locks?" I didn't flinch. "That's right." She let out a breathless laugh, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Come on, babe, you're overreacting. Let me in." I just stood there. "Why?" She blinked, clearly thrown off by the question. "What do you mean, why?" I leaned against the doorframe, my voice as calm as ever. "Why should I let you in? You walked out of this house to go on a date with another man. You didn't ask, you didn't discuss, you just informed me like I was some background character in your life who didn't get a say in how this played out." I tilted my head. "So tell me, Lena, why should I let you in?" She scoffed, shifting her weight. "Oh my God, don't be so dramatic. It was just one date. You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be." I felt something in my chest tighten, but I didn't let it show. She still didn't get it. I gestured to the suitcase sitting just behind me, right by the door. "Your things are packed. You should take them and go." Her eyes darted to the suitcase, then back to me. "You're kidding?" I didn't move. She let out a nervous laugh. "Babe, come on. It was just a night out. You're blowing this out of proportion." I exhaled slowly, looking at her like she was a stranger. Because at this point, that's exactly what she was. "You don't get it, do you?" My voice was steady but cold. "You walked out that door thinking I would sit here and wait for you like nothing happened. That you could go sample something new and come right back, and I'd be here ready to welcome you with open arms." I stepped closer, and for the first time that night, I saw something flicker across her face. Uncertainty. I shook my head. "That's not how this works, Lena. You wanted an open door? You got it. But it's one way. You don't get to walk back through it." She swallowed, her expression shifting slightly. "I thought you said you respected honesty." I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "Honesty? This wasn't honesty. This was you rubbing it in my face. This was you making sure I knew that I wasn't enough for you, that you wanted something new." I folded my arms. "So go get your something new, but don't expect to come back to me when you realize it wasn't worth it." For the first time that night, she looked shaken. "You can't be serious. You're just angry." "Oh, I'm definitely angry," I cut her off. "But I'm also done." I stepped back into the house and grabbed her suitcase. Without another word, I set it down outside the door. "This is insane," she whispered, her voice unsteady. "No," I said, locking eyes with her. "What's insane is thinking you could do what you did and still have a home waiting for you afterward." She stood there, staring at me, waiting for me to cave, but I didn't. For the first time in our entire relationship, I saw it register in her eyes. This wasn't the reaction she expected. She thought she held all the power, that she could dictate the rules. She was wrong. She glanced at the suitcase again, as if debating whether to pick it up. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. The door clicked shut between us, locking her out, not just of the house, but of my life. And that was just the beginning. The moment I shut that door, a strange kind of silence settled over the house. Not an empty silence, not the kind that made a place feel abandoned, but a clean, peaceful kind. The kind of silence that signaled the end of something that should have ended long ago. I stood there for a few seconds, my hand still gripping the doorknob, listening. At first, there was nothing. Then, after a few beats, I heard her exhale sharply. Then, a shuffle. Then, finally, a frustrated stomp against the porch. Good, I thought. Let her sit with it. Let her process the fact that the man she thought would always be there, her safety net, her backup plan, the guy who would wait around no matter what she did, had just shut the door in her face. Then came the inevitable bang, bang, bang. "Are you serious right now?" she shouted. I leaned against the wall next to the door, crossing my arms. I didn't respond. I just let her words hang in the air. Let her hear herself. "You're actually kicking me out after everything we've been through?" Her voice had an edge of disbelief, like she still couldn't wrap her head around what was happening. Like I was the crazy one for not letting her walk all over me. I stayed silent. She banged on the door again, harder this time. "I didn't even do anything. It was just a date. It's not like I slept with him or anything." That made me laugh, a short, humorless chuckle under my breath. Not like she slept with him. Oh, so that's the line now. That's the standard for whether or not betrayal counts? Still, I didn't answer. I wanted to see how long it would take before she started shifting the narrative. Sure enough, after a minute of silence, she tried again. This time, her tone softened. "Babe, come on. You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be." There it was. The damage control, the backpedaling, the desperate attempt to twist things so that I was the irrational one. I shook my head to myself. She still didn't get it. Another beat of silence. Then a sigh. A different tactic. "You're really willing to throw away everything we built together over one night?" Now she cared about what we built. Now she wanted to talk about our marriage, about the history we shared. Now she was trying to make me feel guilty. I finally spoke, my voice calm, even. "You threw it away the second you told me you were going on a date." I could almost hear her stiffen on the other side of the door. "That's not fair," she shot back. "I was honest with you." I let out a slow exhale, pinching the bridge of my nose. "Honesty isn't a free pass for betrayal, Lena. You don't get to slap someone across the face and then say, 'At least I told you I was going to do it first.'" Silence. For the first time, she didn't have a quick response. I pushed off the wall and turned the deadbolt, reinforcing my decision. "Your things are outside. You can take them and go." Then I walked away from the door. She shouted something else. I didn't even hear what it was. Didn't care. I went into the living room, sat on the couch, and turned on the TV. Not because I actually cared about what was on, but because I wanted to send a message. I'm not waiting for you anymore. A few minutes later, I heard the sound of the suitcase wheels rolling down the sidewalk. Then, finally, silence again. This time, it was permanent. The morning after. A new beginning. When I woke up the next morning, I half expected to feel empty, to feel regret, to feel that tight, sinking feeling in my chest that came when you realized you just made a huge mistake. But I didn't. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. I got up, stretched, and looked around the house. It was the same house, the same furniture, the same space I had been living in for years. But it felt different, lighter, cleaner, like a storm had passed, leaving behind fresh air. No more walking on eggshells. No more coming home wondering if my wife was secretly resenting me, or worse, if she was already seeing someone behind my back. No more pretending. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Then, as if the universe wasn't done rewarding me, my phone buzzed. A text from Mark. "Dude, check Lena's socials, now." My eyebrows furrowed. I opened Instagram, my fingers moving instinctively. It didn't take long to find what he was talking about. There, right at the top of my feed, was Lena's new post. A selfie, tears in her eyes. The caption, "I don't know how everything fell apart so fast. I thought we had something real. I never meant to hurt anyone." Ugh, you've got to be kidding me. I let out a dry laugh. She was playing the victim. Of course she was. She wasn't going to admit that she had walked out of our marriage, that she had told me to my face that she was going on a date, that she had expected me to be fine with it. No, that wouldn't fit the narrative. Instead, she was painting herself as the heartbroken one, the poor, misunderstood woman who just didn't know how it all went so wrong. I wasn't even mad. I was just done. I clicked off the app, tossed my phone onto the table, and headed for the kitchen. Let her post whatever she wanted. I had nothing to prove. Because at the end of the day, she was the one who had walked away from a good thing. She was the one who thought she could have her cake and eat it too. And now she had to live with the consequences. Me? I was finally free. The first sip of coffee that morning tasted like freedom. Bitter, strong, and exactly what I needed. I stood by the kitchen window, looking outside as the morning sun painted everything in a golden glow. A brand new day, a fresh start. But, of course, life wasn't about to let me enjoy it that easily. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mark. "Dude, she's really going off now. Check Facebook." I sighed, already knowing what I'd find. Lena wasn't the type to go quietly. She had been caught off guard last night, but now she was regrouping, spinning the story, making she came out of this as the poor, misunderstood victim. I opened Facebook, scrolled for a second, and there it was, a long, dramatic post. "It's crazy how you can be with someone for years, and then one night they decide you don't matter anymore. I always thought love was about understanding, about growing together, about accepting each other's needs. But I guess I was wrong. Some people just don't know how to handle honesty." I laughed out loud. Honesty? That's what she was calling it? She had told me to my face she was going on a date with another man, and now she was twisting it like I was the one who had abandoned her? I scrolled through the comments. That was where the real entertainment was. Her friends, at least the ones who hadn't heard the full story, were rushing to comfort her. "OMG, what happened?" "You deserve better, girl. If he couldn't handle your truth, then he wasn't the one. Some men are just too insecure. You'll find someone who appreciates you for who you are." I rolled my eyes. Oh yeah, because being appreciated clearly meant being allowed to walk all over your husband while dating other men. Then, finally, a comment from someone who actually knew what had happened. "Wait, didn't you literally tell him you were going on a date with another guy and then get mad when he didn't wait around for you?" I smirked. There it is. The replies started turning. Some people asked for more details. Others weren't so quick to jump on the sympathy train. A few even started questioning why she was so surprised that I had packed her things and told her to leave. And Lena? She wasn't responding. Of course she wasn't. She had expected a wave of support, a pity party. Instead, she was getting questioned, pushed into a corner, forced to face the reality she had so carefully tried to avoid. I closed the app and tossed my phone onto the counter. She could say whatever she wanted online. It didn't change the facts. She walked out. I shut the door. End of story. A visit I didn't expect. By the afternoon, I had stopped checking social media. I wasn't about to waste my day watching Lena try and salvage her image. I had better things to do, like finally enjoying the peace and quiet of my own home without walking on eggshells. But peace, it didn't last long. At around 3 p.m., my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Mark would have texted if he was dropping by. Maybe it was a package.
I walked to the door, peered through the peephole, and there she was. Lena, standing outside in a casual sweater and jeans, arms crossed, looking like she hadn't slept. I almost didn't open the door, but I did. Not because I wanted to talk, not because I was about to let her back in, but because I wanted her to see the look on my face. I cracked the door open just enough to lean against the frame. "What do you want, Lena?" Her lips parted, like she had been expecting a warmer welcome. "Can we talk?" I didn't move. "We did that last night." She sighed, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Can I at least come in?" I let out a short laugh. "No." That threw her off. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Come on, don't be childish." "Childish?" I folded my arms. "You're standing here asking to come back inside the home you walked out of to go on a date with another man, and now I'm the childish one?" Her jaw clenched. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" I tilted my head. "Tell me, Lena, what exactly did you think was going to happen? That you'd come back and we'd sit down for coffee like nothing happened? That I'd just pretend it never happened?" She swallowed. For the first time, I saw something flash in her expression. Hesitation, doubt, realization. She actually thought I was bluffing, that this was all some kind of temporary tantrum and I'd eventually cave. But I wasn't playing games. "You made your choice," I said, my voice level. "Now you have to live with it." She exhaled, shaking her head. "I just don't get why you're throwing everything away over one mistake." I arched a brow. Throwing everything away? I wasn't the one who treated our marriage like an open-ended social experiment. Her gaze flickered downward, just for a second. "I just wanted something different." I felt my stomach twist. "Then you should have left before doing this, Lena. Before you turned me into the guy you expected to just sit here and take it." She blinked. "So that's it? That's it?" Silence. For the first time, she actually looked lost. She wasn't used to this. Wasn't used to me not giving in, not bending over backward to fix things, not being the guy who held everything together no matter what she did. I stepped back inside. "Goodbye, Lena." Then I shut the door. And this time, I knew I wouldn't be opening it again. The door clicked shut, and this time, I didn't hesitate. I didn't second-guess myself. I didn't feel the need to turn around to listen for her footsteps, to wonder if I had made the right choice. I had. Lena had made her choice the second she decided that our marriage was something she could treat like a casual arrangement, one where she got to explore, experiment, and do whatever she wanted, while I sat at home like a fool, waiting for her to finish trying something new. Not anymore. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. 3:27 p.m. I figured that was the end of it. That she'd leave, sulk, maybe call a friend and try to spin the situation into something that made her feel better. Maybe she'd go straight to him, the guy she'd risked everything for, and hope he could give her the comfort I wasn't willing to provide anymore. But just when I thought I was finally done with her nonsense, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Mark. "Dude, call me, ASAP." Something in my gut twisted. Mark was laid back, always the type to joke around even in serious situations. If he was sending a text like that, it wasn't good. I dialed him immediately. He picked up on the second ring. "Bro, you're not going to believe this." I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. "At this point, try me." There was a pause. Then Mark's voice lowered. "Lena wasn't just on a date last night." I stilled. "What do you mean?" "She's been seeing this guy for months." I clenched my jaw. "You're sure?" "I got proof, man." His voice was serious now. "Texts, screenshots. Someone saw them together weeks ago, holding hands, sneaking off to his car. It wasn't a one-time thing. She's been playing you for a while." I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. I don't know why I felt the hit of that information so hard. I should have seen it coming. I should have known that someone who could walk out so easily, so casually, had probably been checked out long before that moment. But hearing it confirmed, that was something else. "Who?" I finally asked, my voice quiet but steady. Mark exhaled. "You really want to know?" "Yes." There was a pause. Then, "It's that guy from her office, Ryan." I closed my eyes. Of course. Ryan. The guy she'd mentioned a few times in passing. The one she swore was just a funny work friend. The one who had such an interesting perspective on things. The one she had defended whenever I made a harmless joke about him always texting her after hours. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that I had been played. That every time she smiled at me, laughed at my jokes, kissed me goodnight, she had already been lying. I could hear Mark shifting on the other end of the call. "You still there, man?" I opened my eyes. "Yeah." My voice was like steel. "Send me everything you've got." "Already did." I checked my messages. Sure enough, a flood of screenshots popped up. Texts between Lena and Ryan. Photos of them together. A picture of them at a bar, his arm around her waist, her leaning in like she belonged to him. Like she had never been married at all. I stared at the screen, something deep inside me twisting into something unrecognizable. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. I finally saw it for what it was. This wasn't just one bad decision. This was who she had been the whole time. The next move. By the time I looked up from my phone, it was already getting dark outside. I had been sitting on a couch for over an hour, scrolling through the evidence, piecing together the reality of my marriage that I had been blind to for so long. And the more I read, the more I realized. Lena had never expected to lose me. She had expected me to fight for her, to chase after her, to prove that I was worthy of her, even after she had already made up her mind about leaving me behind. But I wasn't playing by her rules anymore. I grabbed my laptop and opened a new browser tab. Step 1, lawyer up. I searched for a divorce attorney, one with solid reviews, someone who specialized in cases where infidelity was involved. Within 10 minutes, I had an appointment set for the next morning. Step 2, bank accounts. I logged into our shared accounts. Lena hadn't drained them yet, but I wasn't about to take any chances. I moved my paycheck into a separate account under my name only. The savings, I flagged them, noting every transaction she had made in the last few months. Step 3, locks and security. I was an idiot. Just because she had left with her suitcase didn't mean she wouldn't try to come back. I called my security company and upgraded the system. Cameras at the front and back doors, alerts to my phone. By the time I was done, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. This was my life again. My choices. My future. And Lena? She was nothing more than a lesson I had learned the hard way. The message that sealed it. Just as I was shutting my laptop, my phone buzzed. A text from Lena. I exhaled slowly, then opened it. "Hey, can we talk?" I stared at the screen. No apology, no remorse. Just, "Can we talk?" Like she thought she could just fix this. I smirked. Then, slowly, I typed back my reply. "We already did." And then, for the first time since this whole mess started, I blocked her number. A new chapter. The next morning, I woke up to something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. No tension in my chest. No paranoia about what Lena was doing behind my back. No heavy silence in the house, thick with unspoken words and hidden betrayals. Just peace. I stretched, got out of bed, and went about my morning. Coffee, a quick workout, a shower. Everything felt normal, like I had shed some invisible weight that had been pressing down on me for years.
But of course, life wasn't about to let me enjoy it for too long. At 9:37 a.m., my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something told me to pick up. I swiped to answer. Hello? There was a pause. Then, hey, it's me, Lena. I let out a slow breath, gripping my coffee mug a little tighter. Didn't take you long to find a new number to call from. She exhaled sharply. You blocked me? Yup. I took a sip of coffee. What do you want? A beat of silence. Then, softer this time. Because I want to explain. I clenched my jaw, resisting the immediate urge to say, explain what? I had all the explanation I needed. The texts, the photos, the casual way she had walked out the door without a second thought. But then I realized something. She didn't know that I had all that evidence. She thought I was still in the dark, that I only knew about the one date she had admitted to. And that meant she was probably about to try and spin the story again. I leaned back in my chair, considering my options. I could hang up, ignore her, walk away completely. But a part of me wanted to see her face when she realized she wasn't the one in control anymore. I made my decision. Fine, I said. Let's meet. The final conversation. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. Neutral ground. Somewhere public, somewhere I knew she wouldn't try to pull any theatrics. I got there first, ordered a black coffee, sat by the window watching people pass by on the street. Then, at exactly 10:15 a.m., Lena walked in. She looked different, not in a dramatic way, but in a subtle way. Her hair was pulled back, and she wasn't wearing the usual polished makeup she always wore. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, but emotionally, like the weight of her choices had finally started to catch up to her. She spotted me, hesitated for a second, then made her way over. "Hey," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I didn't respond, just raised an eyebrow, waiting. She fidgeted, running a finger along the edge of her cup. "I don't even know where to start." "How about with the truth?" I said, my voice calm but firm. She swallowed. "I never meant to hurt you." I let out a short laugh. "Really? Because you didn't seem too concerned about that when you were getting ready for your date." Her face tightened. "It wasn't like that." "Oh?" I tilted my head. "Then tell me, Lena, how was it?" She took a deep breath, as if preparing for some grand speech. "I felt stuck," she said, "like our marriage was just routine. I felt like I was losing myself. And then Ryan came along, and he was—" I held up a hand. "Stop." She blinked. "What?" "I already know." I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and slid it across the table. Right there, clear as day, was one of the photos Mark had sent me. Lena and Ryan, standing too close together, his arm wrapped around her waist, her leaning in like she belonged to him. Her face drained of color. "Where did you—" "Doesn't matter," I cut in. "What matters is that you've been lying to me for months. You didn't just feel stuck. You weren't just looking for something new. You made a choice. You made several choices, and now you have to live with them." She looked down at the table, gripping her coffee cup like it was the only thing holding her together. I was going to tell you." I sighed. "Lena, the only reason you're here right now is because you lost control of the situation. If I had begged you to stay, if I had taken you back, you never would have told me the truth." Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. I leaned forward slightly. "Tell me something, Lena. If I hadn't changed the locks, if I hadn't packed your things, would you have still gone out with him that night?" She swallowed hard. I waited. Her eyes flicked away. "I don't know." I sat back. "Then we're done here." She looked up, her expression shifting. "Just like that?" "Yes," I said simply. "Just like that." She stared at me, searching my face for something. I could see it, the realization creeping in.
The understanding that this time I wasn't going to break. I stood up, grabbed my phone, and threw a few bills on the table for my coffee. Then I looked at her one last time. "I hope you find whatever it is you were looking for, Lena," I said, "but you won't find it with me." Then I walked away, and I didn't look back. The aftermath. It's been a few weeks since that conversation. Lena tried reaching out a couple more times, texting from different numbers, sending vague, "I just want to talk" messages, but I never responded. I finalized the divorce papers, and now everything is in motion. And me? I'm good. Better than good, actually. For the first time in years, I'm living life on my terms. No more walking on eggshells, no more being taken for granted, no more waiting for someone who never really valued me in the first place. And as for Lena, well, last I heard, Ryan wasn't as excited as she thought he'd be. Funny how that works. Life has a funny way of teaching you lessons. A month ago, I thought my world had fallen apart. I thought losing Lena meant losing everything we had built together. But now I see it for what it really was: freedom. In the weeks since I shut that door on Lena, I've rebuilt my life in ways I never imagined. The divorce papers are moving through the system, and I haven't heard from her in a while. The last time she tried reaching out, I didn't even bother opening the message, because I don't care anymore, and that's the greatest feeling in the world. A new chapter. One of the biggest changes I made? I started focusing on me. For the first time in years, I threw myself into my career, got a well-earned promotion that I had been too distracted to chase before. I started hitting the gym consistently, not because I wanted revenge, but because it felt good to invest in myself again. I even picked up some old hobbies, things I had let slip because I was too busy making sure Lena was happy while she was out looking for something new. And the best part? I started saying yes to life again. A few weeks ago, Mark invited me to a small get-together. Normally, I would have said no, not wanting to deal with people asking about the divorce. But I went. And that's where I met her. No, this isn't some Hollywood love story where I immediately found the perfect woman to heal my wounds. That's not how life works. But what I did find was something genuine. Her name is Claire. She's funny, down to earth, and doesn't play mind games. We started talking. Nothing serious, just casual conversations, laughter, and real connection. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking over my shoulder, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was just living. And that was more than enough. The final nail in the coffin. Just when I thought Lena was fully out of my life, I got one last bit of news about her. Mark sent me a screenshot of one of her recent social media posts. Sometimes you don't realize what you had until it's gone. I laughed, a deep, genuine, free laugh. Because here's the thing, Lena never wanted me. She wanted control. She wanted options. And the second she realized that I was no longer one of them, she suddenly started reflecting on what she lost. But it was too late. I had moved on. The best decision I ever made. If you had told me a few months ago that kicking Lena out would be the best thing that ever happened to me, I wouldn't have believed you. But now, I'm thriving. I wake up every morning without a pit in my stomach. I don't have to wonder who my wife is texting or if she's truly happy with me, because I'm finally happy with myself. So if there's one lesson I learned from all of this, it's this. Sometimes losing someone isn't a loss. It's a win. And walking away, that was the best thing I ever did.